All right, everybody. So we're really thrilled this week to bring to the Twim Studio an Olympic legend. We're really happy to get this one. Noelle Pikus-Pace is with us. Noelle, it's very nice to have you.
It's nice to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Real pleasure. This is fun. So Noelle's people reached out to us and mentioned she might be a good guest for the show. And we're like, absolutely. We talked about you, back in 2014, especially during your famous experience at the Olympics. And it's pretty fun to bring this all full circle now. I guess about 7 years later, Sochi was, I think, February of 2014?
Yeah, February 14th. Nice Valentine's Day surprise there.
Oh, so you remember the date exactly. Who knew?
Oh, of course.
So thank you very much for joining us. Out of curiosity, this is just me being a goon. Pikus, is that like Lithuanian or Latvian or something?
Way to go. It's close. It's Slovenian. Most of my ancestors came from Eastern Europe, and it actually used to be Pikus. And then once they came over on the boats and made it over here to the United States of America, they changed their name when they signed in the name that people couldn't pronounce it. So they switched it to Pikus.
Oh, have you been to Slovenia?
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite country I've ever visited. So that's
serious. It's beautiful. My mom is a huge Ancestry guru. Well, my dad is too, but my mom really takes it by the horns. And so we went to cemeteries and found some ancestors, and we actually ended up going and knocking on some doors of people with the last name Pikus, and they let us in, gave us some big hugs, and we had dinner with them, and they didn't speak a lick of English, and we didn't speak a lick of Slovenian, and it was just a great
amazing.
Time. It was fun.
Was this like in villages, or was it in Ljubljana, the capital area?
No, it was in a little village, actually. Yeah. A little village next to, we found the cemetery and found who they were related to. And it was just a really cool experience. It's been fun.
That's amazing. So I get you and now the former First Lady. We've got two famous Slovenians and many others, of course. That's awesome. So you racing, I guess is the right way to say it.
Yeah, racing, yep.
Skeleton. And of course, you just tell us about how does one get into skeleton in particular? That's a very
doesn't everybody
particular sport.
Right? Yeah. I thought everybody dreamed of throwing themselves down for 90 miles an hour, No, for me, it was really just right time, right place. It's not one of those things that you grow up like hoping to do. It's not one of those things that you're just like, oh, one day I'm going to be a skeleton athlete. I was actually 15 years old running track and field in Orem, Utah. And it was just before the 2002 Winter Olympic Games, and just really right time, right place. My track and field coach in high school happened to be helping out with the bobsled program in Park City, Utah, which was about an hour away from me where I grew up. And so he came, I remember him showing up one day and just saying, "Hey, Noelle, do you want to go up and try bobsledding? They're trying to find track and field athletes that want to try this, some youth that want to try this." And I was like, bobsledding? Like, what's that? Like Cool Runnings, the movie, is all I knew about it. And so, I went up and I tried bobsledding. I fell in love with it. It's like a little car thing, and you go down the icy mountain, down this track on the side of an icy mountain. And then a year later, they took away the bobsled funding. And so they said, well, we have this little cookie sheet thing you want to try, do you want to try this? And a little cookie sheet. So you jump onto this little cookie sheet and go head first with your arms to your side, your feet together and pointed, and your chin less than an inch off of the ice going 90 miles an hour. And I just fell in love with it. The speed, the thrill, the technique involved. I just loved skeleton from the get-go. It was fun.
And is there any reason, I know skeleton, and this is something I've learned in researching this, skeleton and luge do not even use the same types of sleds, if that's...
No.
Can I call them sleds officially?
Yeah, sleds, yeah. Okay. Yeah, good job, Jeff. You've done some research.
We'll try to do a little bit. So just any reason why skeleton and not luge? Since they are similar, but still different.
Yeah, similar. I've actually never tried luge. And they are similar so for luge, for those listeners that don't know, luge, you're laying on your back in kind of a little, it's like a kind of little bull type of sled, like it kind of encases you. And skeleton is, and it's very lightweight. A luge sled is extremely lightweight, maybe 10, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. And skeleton sled is flat. It really is like a cookie sheet with blades on the bottom. And it weighs 65 to 80 pounds. So it's super heavy, just super flat. So the difference is in steering, and you're laying on your stomach. So luge, they lay on their back and they paddle with their hands, and then they lay down. They do it singles or doubles. 2 people go down, which I think is very awkward.
I know. I've
And
seen
then they
video
do,
of that.
then they just do single skeleton run, sprinting fast at 40 meters, and then jump onto your stomach. So totally different. But no, I just never tried it. I just was hooked on skeleton.
I can't imagine what the rush is like I mean, of all the ones you could do between bobsled, luge, and skeleton, I feel like skeleton, I think skeleton's the slowest technically, but I feel like it'd be the most intimidating because your face is, like you said,
Head first.
less than an inch off the ground. Does that make it, I was gonna say, does that make it any easier if you wipe out because you're like so low, there's not much impact and you just kind of slide?
It's really bad because our sleds are so heavy. So, none of them are fun. And when we talk about, the speed of the sport, so we're talking within 1 mile or 2 miles an hour difference in speed. So when you're going 90 miles an hour in a bobsled, a 4-man bobsled, because they have about 1,600 pounds of weight when you're putting in all the guys in there and the bobsled itself, they're going maybe 3 to 4 miles an hour faster than us. Luge usually goes 1 to 2 miles an hour faster. So it's just not a huge difference. But the crashes, no matter who you are, what you're doing, it's bad no matter what. Because you crash in a bobsled, a lot of times you get pinned under the weight of the sled, which is really bad. In luge, if you crash, a lot of times they fly out of the sled because their sleds are so light that I've seen it's happened where they can fly out easier. And skeleton, it's a 70-pound sled coming crashing down on top of you. And I've seen some huge, horrible accidents. So it's never a pretty sight to see any crashes on any of those sports.
Oh, geez. So it's like, I mean, because you were doing track and field, you could have avoided all of this and just enjoyed the fine world of jumping and running. But instead you chose to have sleds come and assault you. And did I read correctly that your husband actually made your sled?
Yeah, he did.
And that's the one you had in Sochi as well?
So he designed and built my sled for the 2010 Winter Olympic Games in Vancouver, Canada. And then again, another one for Sochi, Russia in 2014. So it was really a family endeavor. Going into the 2010 games, the sled that I was on previously, it kept bending and breaking, and I just had issues with it almost at every single competition. There was something that needed to be fixed on it. And so after the 2009 World Championships, my husband and he knew my sled was damaged and shipping in the airplane. And he said, what, I'm just going to design you one. I'm going to design you a sled. And I kind of laughed. I was like, yeah, people don't just design sleds. Like, that's like making your own, shoes or something. I don't know, a tennis racket. I don't know. And he said, no, I'm going to do it. He has a background in 3D design on the computer. So he was working in a steel fabrication shop. He's a project manager there. And so he had the tools and the knowledge necessary. He just needed to study that 1,000-page specification book. And he did it. And he did an amazing job. It was great.
Wow. What are they actually made out of? You have the rails, but...
So the inside of it, the skeleton part of the skeleton sled, the inside of it is actually steel. And there's steel crossbars, so that they're located exactly at your shoulders and then at your knees so that you can torque the sled. So that's actually our steering bars, is where right below our knees and shoulders. So it has a steel frame, and then it has some people have fiberglass on the bottom, but I used carbon fiber on the bottom of my sled. And then on the top, it's really high tech. We have a yoga mat and gaffer's tape to hold it all together. So, from the top layer of it. So yeah. And then the blades are a different type of steel, a composite of steel that's specific to the sled. So
that's crazy. So you fell in love with the sport around 2002. What is, just for, I think everyone wonders about this, what is the process then to become a professional, I want to call you a skeletor for He-Man reference, but I don't think that's what it is, but a professional skeleton athlete or any other Olympic athlete for that matter? What is the process to have a career in this and then eventually become an Olympian? And what lessons do you learn along the way?
Yeah. Wow. That was like 5 questions, but let's see if I can do this, Jeff. Let's see if I can do this. So the process to really reach the top, you really need to be ranked top 3 in the U.S. is really what you're aiming for, because the top 3, if you're beyond the top 3 in the United States of America, or even 2, really, you won't make the World Cup team. And that's the team that everybody's shooting for. The World Cup team is the varsity team of athletics. If you're ranked 4th or 5th, you're going to be on Intercontinental Cup, which is like JV. And then there's like a sophomore class and a freshman. There's all these different levels of teams. So you really want to be in the top 3 in the US. And then from there, your goal is to consistently, well, my goal for years was consistently to be in the top 6 at every world race. And that didn't just happen. You can't just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be in the top 3 and then I'm going to be in the top 6 in the world. It's really, so a lesson, you asked what the lessons were, and probably one of my biggest lessons came from a massive crash in Altenburg, Germany. It was in Eastern Germany. And our team had just shown up to this race. I was a rookie. It was my first year on World Cup. I made it onto the World Cup team 3 years after I started the sport, which is crazy fast. Usually it takes you quite a bit longer than that to make it onto the World Cup team, but circumstances and it led me to be on that team, which was awesome. But I remember going to this track in Altenburg, Germany, and all of my teammates were saying, oh, this track is so hard. Oh my goodness, you're going to crash, you're going to flip, you're going to get hurt. And sure enough, that day in training, I flipped, I crashed, I got hurt. And it was definitely an eye opener for me. I remember looking back and because my goal was to cross the finish line. Like I just really wanted to cross the finish line and be the first one down. So everybody was crashing that day, even the veterans, like the ones that had been there for time after time after time. Everybody was crashing that day on this track in Germany. And I was determined to cross the finish line, and I was holding on really tight to my handles. And despite the fact that I did this, I flipped over onto my back. My 65-pound sled came crashing down on top of me, and I lost the wind. The wind got knocked out of me. So ultimately my run was over. And I remember looking back and just thinking, man, like that was really scary. First of all, that was super scary. But second, what can I learn from this? Like, how can I never go through this experience again? What can I change in my actions that can help me to change this? And I remember looking back and thinking about why I crashed, and I was staring at the roof. So I ultimately hit the roof in this corner. And I remember staring at the roof in this corner, just thinking, don't hit the roof, don't hit the roof. Like as I was approaching this roof, and as I drew closer and closer, I hit it, and I hit it hard, and I crashed. And looking back at this experience, I realized I was looking at my fears and my doubts and my worries and everything that was stressing me out. That's what I was staring at. That's what I was focused on in this track. And I hit it. I nailed it. And I realized that I needed to focus my sights on where I wanted to go rather than where I didn't want to end up. I realized that where you look is where you go. And the importance of setting goals each and every day where I wanted to end up. I wanted to be very intentional with my time and very intentional with each practice and very intentional with my talents and my skills and what I could do. And so once I was able to narrow it down and really pinpoint the areas of focus, I just kept it to three things I wanted to improve upon. And then I'd go back every single day and reflect how they went and how I could improve and what I needed to do better and where I maybe needed to continue to work on. So huge learning experience, huge lesson learned, just focusing on what you want out of life rather than what you don't want, and seeing the light, seeing the gratitude, seeing the hope, and working hard to achieve it.
Wow. That's amazing. Is it a livelihood at that point in time when if you're on the World Cup skeleton tour? Is that it became
a livelihood for me probably once. And I love all your lingo, by the way, Jeff. It's awesome. Skeletor, skeleton. It's awesome.
What did I say this time? I thought I just said skeleton. I don't know.
I think it's great. I love that name, Skeletor. But it became a livelihood. It really didn't. Being an Olympian is not the way. I would never recommend somebody to say, yes, for your livelihood, you should be an Olympian because it really pays off. I would never, ever suggest that, because you go far more into debt than you could ever make in a crazy sport like this. Like I'm sure I don't even know how many thousands of dollars we put into it and thousands of hours of time before we even saw a penny. So it's definitely not for the high life, but it really comes once you start getting corporate sponsors. And that doesn't happen until you're at least ranked. Usually to get it so that it's actually paying for everything that you're doing, you need to be at least ranked top 6 in the world. And then the closer you get to that number 1 spot, the more sponsorships that want to be there by your side, during the duration of your athletic career anyway. So,
wow. Stuff I just don't know about. I was in band in high school, and I never planned on being a professional marching band person or anything. So there's no corporate sponsors for that, at least that I'm
But
aware.
I'm looking at you right now, and I can see you have a guitar right behind you.
I do.
That's
That is my janky PV guitar that my dad gave me like 20 years ago, because I'm going to blame it on my wife. I've never been allowed to buy the nice Epiphone I want to get. But yeah, I play music for other things. Yes, I do.
It looks
So,
awesome.
yeah,
It's sweet. It's cool.
it's fun. I took a Sharpie to the headstock, which is why it's all black, so you couldn't see the words PV on it. If you're not familiar with PV, it's more of an entry-level brand of guitar.
Oh, it looks great. Hey,
So
why are you don't need to share that. You could just like let us, I can just see it. It looks amazing. I don't even know it.
I feel comfy with you, Noelle. I'm emoting. I'm letting it out.
That's great.
So famously, you were preparing to go to the 2006 games, right, in Turin?
Yeah. Yeah.
And by then you were were you top ranked in the world at that time?
I was ranked first in the world. Yeah, first in the world going into the 2006 games. And stoked it would be my first chance to become an Olympian, and I was going into it ranked first in the world. So yeah, I was stoked.
And then things didn't quite go according to plan, though. If history
They
serves,
did not.
this was kind of a pivotal moment for you.
As they rarely do. You look back at the pandemic, and I don't think, looking into, January 1st of 2020, I don't think anybody could have foreseen what would have been in, looking back at 2021, January 1st. Looking back, I don't think any of us could have foreseen that coming. And that was really my case going into the 2006 Olympic Games into Torino, Italy. I was ranked first in the world, on fire, just doing so good, so good, like mentally, physically, spiritually, in all aspects. I just felt like I was there, like in the moment. When you talk about, athletes talk about this often and frequently, about being in the zone, what that means. And for me, man, I was there. Like I wasn't distracted by anything. I wasn't swayed by anything. I knew what I needed to do. I knew how to give it 100%. I knew how to learn from my failures, learn from my successes. I was there ready to take on the world. And at our Olympic trials, during a training run, to make this Olympic team, during our practice run, a bobsled was sent down the track after 5 of us skeleton athletes had gone down. And we were down at the bottom of the track waiting for a truck to come and pick us up, to take us back up to the top of the track, up to the top of the mountain. And a bobsled was sent down with a rookie driver and rookie brakeman. It was a 4-man bobsled. And the brakeman had never been in the bobsled before, so he didn't know he was supposed to pull the brakes.
Oh, geez.
Somehow they missed that conversation, and they crossed the finish line, and the brakes were never applied, and they came flying out of the end of the track and ran into us. I was in the back of the pack of my skeleton athletes, my skeleton teammates, and they were able to get out of the way. But since I was at the very back, I took one step to jump out of the way, and the bobsled hit me from behind, and I sustained a compound fracture of my right leg. So my bones were sticking out of my leg, which wasn't a pretty sight to see. And it shattered my leg, and it shattered my Olympic dream. So in a split second, I went from being first in the world to not even being able to go to the Olympics. And that was quite the experience in my life. Of talk about a learning experience, and it's like we just mentioned with the pandemic, sometimes you get blindsided. And the lesson I learned from this is that, looking back and even through it, I realized that we always have a choice. We always have a choice to make. We always can choose whether we look back and say, what if I could have just had this? Life would have been so much better if this had happened. Man, imagine where I could have been if this didn't go wrong. And you can look back and put blame and be upset and get caught up in all the negativity going on around us, because there's so much of it in the world today. So much. It's so easy to find those voices of that cloud our minds, cloud our hearts, and blind us to light and truth. And I realized that in 2006, after I missed out on this Olympic dream, realizing that I still had a choice. I could choose which voices to listen to. I could choose which light or darkness to let into my life, and where I would draw the line. And so once I decided that and realized, it was really just being aware of it and recognizing that we always have a choice. It changed everything. Even though despite missing out on the Olympics, and yes, it was devastating, and yes, it was hard, I still knew that I had a bright and hopeful future. And I just needed to take steps necessarily in this moment I can't look back to yesterday and what might have been, but I can start today and look ahead and say, okay, I'm here now. And now where do I want to go? And then take those steps necessary. So it changes everything.
Did you think about hanging it up at that point in time?
Yeah, 100%. Oh yeah. I talked about it many, many times, just saying, I'm done. Like throwing my hands in the air. Like, I can't do this. Like, I just can't, like, I'm done. I put everything into this and it's over. And, it really, that next summer, so that was in October of 2005 that I got hit, and I watched as my competitors competed in the Olympics. It was so, so hard. My family all had tickets to Italy already because I was ranked first in the world, and you got to get those tickets early. So we all went over there, and I watched it from a TV screen, watching who won gold, silver, bronze, and it was devastating. And so that whole summer, I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to go back to compete. And it was really my husband, Jansen, and he's like, you're so good. Like, you're so good at this sport. You love it. Like, just go one more year just so that you can get back on that horse, so you don't have this like negative taste in your mouth, just in case. Like, just give it a try. And sure enough, I went back one more year before taking a year off to have our daughter. I went back one more year, and I ended up winning the world championships by the largest margin in the history of our sport. So, good things can come from the fire, from the ashes. And it's just a matter of if we choose to let it light us up and bring that passion and that drive and that innovation and creativity, or if we allow it to stifle it.
Yeah. Jansen seems like a good guy. I think he's building his sleds. How did you guys meet anyway?
He's a good guy. He's a keeper. He's a good one. So we met, I was so young, you guys. I was so young. I had just graduated high school, like literally just like 1 week earlier. And Jansen, he served a mission in Panama, and he returned from his mission 2 weeks earlier. And we happened to end up at a church building on a Monday night playing basketball. And I remember going into this basketball because I just love sports, and I was just up for anything. And somebody mentioned that some people got together on Monday nights at the local building and to play. And so I was like, I want to go. And I show up at this church building, and I poke my head into the gym, and I see that it's all guys. And I'm like, shoot, like, they never want to just play with like a girl. They're always like, like, oh, I don't want to foul you, and I'm like, bring it, and I just like poked my head again. I'm like, oh man, I really want to play. Like, I don't want to just go home. And I poked my head in again, and I was like, oh, there's a couple cute ones. Okay, I'll stay. So that's like a totally true story. So I went in and played basketball. We ended up hanging out, and the ones that I thought were cute were he and his friend. My mom would kill me because she loves English. But anyway, the two of them were in there, and we ended up hanging out all summer, and then just started dated for a year, and then got married. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And I believe it would be he and his friend, because they are the subject, not the objects in that sentence. The verb applies to them.
My mom will thank you. Yes. Well, anytime I answered the phone, it's like, this is she. I can't say this is her. This is me. This is she. Like
if I do that, if I answer and say this is he, I always feel pretentious. And I'm a very pretentious person to begin with. So it's just.
So what do you say? Jeff speaking. Like,
I really want to get into go for Jeff. I don't really even understand like that phrasing, but I loved it from How I Met Your Mother when Barney does it, and other people.
Awesome.
Go for Jeff. Go for Noelle.
Awesome. I love it. Do it.
So
with it. Own it.
You competed in Vancouver as well, like you mentioned, of course.
Yeah.
This one must have been tough because I think you were back in the game, but you were. I think, I don't remember how close, but you were just shy of the podium.
Oh, just shy of the podium. It was a tough one to swallow. So I came back and finished, that world championships in 2007, winning it. I took a year off and went on for my master's degree and had our first child. I had Lacey, and then went back to compete, but I was never quite, and Jansen could see this. I was so torn. Now I'm a mom, and I wanted to be home with my daughter. Now I'm leaving, and she's 9 months old, and now I have to travel the world, and it's just not the same as it used to be. Yeah. It just wasn't the same. Yeah. And so going into the 2010 games, my balance in my life, my well-being was not circular. It was not balanced. And so like when I was home, I felt guilty for not training. When I was training, I felt guilty for not being at home. And I was just being pulled in so many directions. My coaches felt like I needed to put more there. My family felt like I needed to put more there. And so it was a really tough thing to try and figure out. And so when I went to the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, Canada, I went into it like I was dreading it. As crazy as this sounds, like I was just like, I just want to get it over with. Like I just want to be done with it. Yeah, it's so weird. I know.
I get it.
But I was glad to finally be an Olympian, but I just wanted this stress in my heart and in my chest. I just wanted it gone because it was so stressful, so much pressure that I was putting on myself, that my coaches were putting onto me. I just felt overwhelmed. And so going into the 2010 games, I remember in the months leading up to it, just saying, the day that the Olympics happened, the day of my Olympic race, I'm retiring. I'm done. I'm never looking back. I'm done. Like, I can't go through this again. And so after my Olympic competition, I crossed that finish line and I finished in 4th place. You guys, that's the worst. It's not second. Don't say second's the worst place. It is 4th place. 4th place is the worst place you could ever finish in an Olympics. Gold, silver, bronze, nothing. Like 4th place is like where you just get to look back forever and just know everything you did wrong. And I missed it by a 1/10 of a second.
Oy.
After going down 4 times down a mile-long course, a mile long, 90 miles an hour, I missed it by less than a blink of an eye. Like, you'd have to blink 10 times in a second. If you're listening, you can try this, whether you're driving in the car, if you're at home, if you're with your kids, whatever, try it. Try and blink. Count how many times you can blink in 1 second. Have someone time you and count how many times you can blink in a second. And you would have to blink 10 times in a second. And I missed an Olympic medal from one blink to the next. So close, so close. So, I threw my arms in the air and said, well, I did my best. That was awesome. I am done. I'm out of here. See you later. And I retired, just done and ready to spend time with my family, ready to be that full-time mom. And it was like this huge relief of just like, yes, I'm going to go make strawberry jam. I'm going to go make that t-shirt quilt I've always wanted to make. Like, I'm going to do some things that I've been wanting to do for years and I haven't been able to. And I did, and it was fun. 2 years of that. It was great. I joined PTA, that was great.
Well, it's funny. You talk about pressure, and I wonder, do you see any parallels between the pressures you felt as an Olympic athlete and sort of the pressures we place upon ourselves as Latter-day Saints? I mean, I think there is sort of a perfectionist streak that runs in our culture a lot of the time. I don't want to pick on Utah, but you're from Utah, where I think a lot of those cultural things are exacerbated and magnified a lot.
Go ahead, keep going.
I was just going to say, do you see parallels there? And like, what's a healthy approach to like being competitive, to not getting down on ourselves when we don't succeed? And how do we also balance that with our faith at the same time? How do we become better Latter-day Saints and not destroy ourselves?
Yeah. So one of the things I've been studying for our family this year in 2021, we chose one word to focus on for our family, just one. And the word that we chose is charity. And within charity, man, you can break it down. There's at least 13 different principles within charity that we've found. And there's so many. If we just focus on charity, of loving ourselves first, and provoketh, is not easily provoked, envieth not, and all these things that go into it, having patience and brotherly kindness, having all these things that bring charity into our life, I think we'd see so much good coming out of our world, out of our lives, out of our homes, within our families, within our kids. If we just were able to first love ourselves fully, because a lot of times, even as an athlete, it's those insecurities that get us down. It's those insecurities that cause judgment and comparison. And once, as a rookie athlete, I felt like it was my duty to compare myself and to judge others and to put them in their place and to teach them how it's done. It's almost like this responsibility that I felt like, no, that you're doing it wrong. No, look at them. They're not doing it right. Oh, look how they're, just kind of this constant judgment and comparison. And as I grew in wisdom within the sport, I realized that it was never about that, ever about that. And I think a lot of times as individuals, as people, whether members of the church or not, but yes, there is definitely a struggle with it within our culture. We tend to compare ourselves way more than we ever should, and comparing brings judgment, and judging others not only brings us down, but those around us as well. And so if we just expect the best from people and know that everybody's doing their best, and we focus on ourselves and strive to do our best, really, that's when I realized that I could be an elite athlete. That was the difference between being a rookie athlete and being an elite athlete, was that huge stepping stone of saying, what can I do to become better? They're doing the best they can. I hope they do their best, and not really, truthfully, not hoping they would crash, hoping not the worst for them, hoping
Right.
just hoping that I could do my absolute best, hoping everybody could be safe, hoping everybody could give their best, and that God would bless me along the way. And that's what it ended up turning to as I went into the 2014 Olympics. I could stand at that starting line with confidence and with hope and with love and without judgment or guile. And it was an incredible feeling at the 2014 games to be able to stand up at the top and just not focus on anybody else's competition. They're doing the best they can, great, but I just need to focus on how I can improve and what I'm doing well and what I'm not doing so well. So give yourself some credit, love yourself, and just focus on where you can improve and let go of the judgments and comparisons.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you mentioned judging comparisons. I think being a Latter-day Saint woman and being a professional at anything sometimes can be an interesting place to operate. And you kind of hinted at that, like after you had your first child, your heart wasn't 100% in it and coming back to the sport. Like, how has that been for you being a Latter-day Saint female athlete, someone in the public eye? Have you felt any of those pressures and judgments, like you should not be doing this, you should be being in the PTA, like you mentioned before?
Yeah, I think there was a time, I think it was during the time of those insecurities of myself, that I tended to see what other people thought more, or made assumptions of what people thought I should be doing or thought my place should be. And I did in the beginning when I was, not even in the beginning, about 2005, 2006, 2007, in that time when I was first in the world, I really did have some people write to me and saying really some really mean letters, to be honest with you. It wasn't a lot of them, but there were those few. And we tend to focus on those few that have those judgments rather than seeing all the greatness that people are offering to us. And we tend to focus on the negativity, maybe a little more amplified than not. And I remember a specific email came to me at one point and just saying, how could you put your life at risk when you have a child? How dare you? It's more like, and for them, it was more like, how could you do this as a mom? And I remember for a second just being like, they don't even know me. Like, how can they, like, for me, this is really extremely safe to go down. It really is safe for me because I know my place. I can feel it. I know where I'm at. I could go down any track in the world because I've prepared for it. It's, I'd be more worried about, driving a car because now I have other people to worry about, So
Exactly.
For me, it's a very safe place, but they didn't understand that. And I remember having to have that humility, and just my husband, Jansen, because I remember having tears in my eyes saying, people are feeling like I shouldn't be doing this. And he had to say, people are always going to judge. That's their thinking. That's their issue. It's not yours. I trust you. I know you're doing what you are very capable of doing, and we've prayed about it. They don't have any clue what it's taken me to get there. So, there have been those moments, but I think now, because I work outside, I do like full-time speaking, keynote speaking, developing courses. I do a lot of full-time working. And now I think it's quite a bit different than it used to be. I think things have changed quite a bit, especially now you bring the pandemic into it. And a lot of us are working from home, whether you're female or male or what mom, dad, whatever that is. Things are starting to look a little different, but I think hopefully, and this is really just my own, it's up to me to know this, that I have balance in my life with my kids, with my home, with my family. I can still make my strawberry jam if I want, and help out with the kids' classes. And it really is a very individual thing, and it's never up to us. I love what Elder Uchtdorf said when he said, for judging, when we're talking about judging others, he said, just stop it. Stop it. Just stop it right now, because you have no clue where those people have been and what they've gone through to get to where they are. And so I love those words. So just do the best you can.
I appreciate that. I remember when you won the silver medal in Sochi, I believe you had the young women's medallion with you, right? If memory serves. Yeah. Do you feel like when you're a public figure, kind of like yourself, and obviously you're working in motivational areas, you're helping people try to aspire to be higher and everything, but like, is it also hard? Do you feel like it's your responsibility to set certain examples for the young women since you're in this kind of a role? Because we see other Latter-day Saint women who I don't want to lean too much on the ridicule and the the anger and the judging like we had just a few minutes ago. But you do see that where there's a certain standard you're kind of held to that might be unfair, or do you think it's unfair?
Yeah, at the beginning, I actually wore that young woman medallion. So yes, I did have it on, but I wasn't doing it for the eyes of the world, to be honest with you. At that time during the Olympics, I was serving in a calling. I was the stake young women's president. And what that means, I was just over, if there those who might not know, I was over a group of young women aged 12 to 18 and over the leaders within that area. And so when we had this leadership training a year before the Olympic Games in 2014, and it was the general leadership training, and Sister Elaine Dalton and her presidency and the board members were all serving and teaching us. And I remember driving up to Salt Lake with our stake young women's presidency, and we sat down and we listened as they taught us. And they said, if you have received your young woman medallion, pull it out, go dig it out. And if you haven't, take the time to earn it. And we want you to wear it. We want you to wear it so these the young women in your stake, can know where your sights are set, so that they can know that you want to attend to the temple, that you're striving to be there, that you're striving to live your covenants, and also the flame, that torch, that to be a light to the world. And so when we were asked to do that, our presidency in Eagle Mountain, Eagle Mountain, Utah, we just committed and we said, we're going to wear this all the time, at all times, all things, all places, just to show these girls that we are committed to where our sights are set. So I actually, for like a whole year, didn't take off that necklace. I just had it on and I put it under my speed suit and wear it down the track and throughout all my interviews. And it was a great conversation starter. I realized going to many interviews and they'd say, oh, that's a really pretty necklace. What is that? And I'm like, well, let me tell you,
Yeah.
let me tell you about this, and it was a great conversation starter. And so when I was on the podium and that medallion could be seen, I honestly had no clue that the world saw it. I had no clue there were images and pictures that showed me wearing this. It was just something that I was doing already, constantly just wearing it. And so when it wasn't until we flew back to the United States, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I saw your necklace. I knew you were a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so at that time they said, I knew you were Mormon,
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, I just remember all these comments and just thinking, man, that is just a testament to me that God knows us and he knows how we can use our talents, because it wasn't necessarily that they saw me go down the track. Wow, what you did was amazing. What they saw was that I had this necklace on this podium. It didn't matter if I did biathlon or skiing or skeleton or whatnot, but just that I was trying to stand as a witness of God. And anyway, I just felt like that was a testament to me that God knows us. And if we're striving to try and do all that we can to be these great people that we can be, he will make up the rest. He'll make up the rest for us and help us to do his work along the way in whatever capacity that is, if we allow him to.
So what led you back into it? After 2010, you were probably feeling pretty done with things, and I imagine you've been in and out of the sport, and I imagine that's not easy to sort of train in and out and get back up to snuff. So what made you decide to go for it in 2014?
So honestly, it was a late miscarriage. So I had our little boy in 2011. So Lacey was 2008, Trayson was 2009, and then I was pregnant with a little girl, and her heart just stopped beating, and they didn't know why. And so following that miscarriage, I was devastated. Like I was so sad and couldn't figure out how to just move forward. I couldn't see that hope of something to look forward to or where to go. I didn't want to rush into getting pregnant again, because I just needed time and space. And so my husband saw that, and he knew that I still loved skeleton, but he knew my reason for stopping in 2 years previous. He knew it was because of circumstances. It was just being away from him, being away from Lacey, and now I'd have to be away from Trayson as well, our 2 kids and him. And there was no way I could throw my life that far out of balance to be gone from them for months and months at a time after missing so many memories with them already. And so he talked me into going back to compete. And he brought up the fact, he's like, I know you love this sport. I know you still love it, but what if we could do this as a family? what if we could travel the world and, I could come with you and Lacey and Trayson could come with you and we could just make it this huge family experience and just have a blast. Like from country to country, you train all along the way. I'll take care of everything. Don't worry about it. You just get back into training and focus on competitions. I'll take care of everything else. And I was just kind of in shock and a little blown away, like, holy cow, that sounds like, that sounds like a magical, experience. It just sounds perfect. It would be picture perfect to be able to do this thing that I absolutely love. And I really was really good at it before I left. And I'm not saying that to boast. It was just in the rankings and the scores. And anyway, so I said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's try this. It took him a little bit of convincing, but I had been out of competition, out of training. I hadn't done like a single workout in like 2 years. I'm not kidding, 2 years, because I was pregnant and then had a baby and then pregnant again and then miscarriage. It was just like this constant change of body. And so after this miscarriage at 18 weeks, I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's come back. And I waited a couple months and then I had like 4 months, let me think. It was in April, May, June, July, August, September. So I had 4 months to get back into like Olympic competition shape. And so it was I had a great strength and conditioning coach and we did it. We made it back and made it onto that World Cup team. And we ended up traveling the world for 2 years and talk about an experience of a lifetime. It was picture perfect. It was awesome.
And what a capstone as well.
It was
and I'm assuming, were you planning on you were retiring after Sochi no matter what?
Oh yeah, all along. I knew coming out of retirement, I just said, okay, this is it though. Like win first, last, middle, crash, like whatever happens in Sochi, like I'm done. Like I want to just change this chapter of my life. I don't want it to be that my kids are always following along in mom's coattail, like always looking at her talents. Jansen and I are really passionate about helping our kids to develop their talents and to find their skills and to other children and youth, and to help them to develop their talents and their skills. And I knew I wanted to close this chapter of my life and move on to another one. And I really have never looked back after that final run in Sochi, Russia, jumping into the stands, hugging, embracing my husband, embracing Jansen and our kids, because it was a journey with them and just shouting, we did it. It was never just me along the way. My parents were there, my siblings, and it took so many people, the community, the state of Utah, the country, just so many people went into that moment and into that medal. So it was an incredible experience.
And quite literally, have you been on a skeleton since then?
No, I haven't. I literally knew going into it, that was it. And I took that final run and I really never looked back. It was just like, all right, fine. Oh man, that was amazing. Okay, now what? And so from that point, my husband and I, we wrote a bucket list, like just a couple weeks before. We knew definitively that was it, that we created a bucket list. And we said, okay, so that we never look back, so that we're just done, because I really don't want to do this again. We're creating a bucket list of just amazing things to look forward to in life, to hope for, to just experience, to see, do, be, have, read, whatever it is that we want to do. We made this massive bucket list. And so we've just been checking things off ever since. So now we're, what are we, like 7 years later, we're still just tackling this bucket list of just fun things to look forward to every year and monthly. And it's just been fun. It's been great.
Yeah, it all seems very goal focused, which is kind of your mantra in many ways. And I mean, how do you achieve goals as a mom in particular? I mean, you have all these bucket list goals. You've got a growing family even since then. I mean, I watch my wife and she's very busy with our kid and the other things she likes to do. And I just can't imagine how you tackle so many things. Like, what do you say to them?
Honestly, it's just, for me, it's really about planning ahead. And yes, things come up that take us out of our schedule, take us out of it. But I've never been a fan when people say, and sorry if you say this, but I've never been a fan or any listeners of saying, I just don't have time. Because we all have time. We all have 24 hours in a day. We're all given the same amount of time, but it's just what we choose to do with that time. So one of the things I choose not to do with my time is, you don't see me on social media a lot. I mean, I'm not judging. There's no judgment really. For me, that was one way where I could gain 15 or 20 minutes a day of my life to put into what I intentionally want to focus on for a goal of my own, to say, okay, I'm going to take my social media pages off of the front of my phone, like off of just my front screen of the phone. And I'm actually going to make it so I have to go looking for them. So I actually intentionally have to find any of my social media pages, because I'm going to be on there for a purpose, not just to scroll and, use my time that way. So that's been a huge way that I've gained time in my life. But just making a plan. I usually try to make a plan at the beginning of the month of like, okay, if I could accomplish these like 5 major things, I would look back at January or February or March or whatever month you're in. I would look back at that month and be like, wow, that was awesome. I got these 5 things done, these 5 big things. So then I break it down into the week. Okay, this week, which one of those do I want to focus on, or which one should I start on? And then at the end of the week, I say, okay, I was able to do that. So it's just kind of constantly reflecting back and looking ahead and preparing. But I found that I've gained a lot of time in being intentional with my time rather than just kind of letting it pass by. So even when my kids go to, so Trayson, he's in archery, Lacey does pole vault, when they're at their events, I still have like a notebook, taking notes, planning out my day, or reading a book, or learning a skill. I'm constantly doing something, unless I'm intentionally just sitting down to relax. But I try. I'm not perfect. I'm coming across as
I like
like
this. Right now is my apportioned relax time. This is that goal for the day. I have 15.
I'm coming across to sound like I've got it all together. I can tell you there are times when I'm just like throwing my hands in there and saying, oh my gosh, like I'm done. I'm just like going to go get in my car and drive to the parking lot of the park that's down the street from me, just so I can just breathe and gather my thoughts, because there's way too much noise going on in the house and too much screaming. So Trust me, I'm there with you too. I'm there with you.
And is your structure an example of life stacking? Tell us about life stacking.
Oh, awesome. So yeah, life stacking. I created a 12-week course to help individuals live on purpose. So this is really just where it begins, is with mindset. That's the first principle to focus on, and helping individuals to, so if you're feeling stuck in life, or you're feeling like, man, I wish I had more direction. I just don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I could be doing more with my life. I feel like I could be doing more with my talents, but I just don't even know where to begin. I just feel stuck. If you're going through the routine of the day, waking up and going to work, or taking care of kids, and then getting dinner ready, and then going to bed and doing it all again the next day, that's what this course is for. It's to help individuals to, figure out their mindset, to live on purpose, to find their life's purpose, recognize their values, overcome failure, and face their fears, and dream big. There's a chance to create your own bucket list within it and take action. And it's just great. I'm really excited about 12-week course, and you can find it on my website, noellepikus-pace.com. Thanks for asking about that.
Well, sure. You give us your time. I might as well just let you plug what you're doing. I think that this is a useful conversation, and it reminds me a lot about the importance of goals. Like we were talking about right there, how you portion your time, how you're intentional with your time. Because yeah, totally. I find you find yourself, everyone's asleep. It's like 9:30 p.m. and all I want to do is just pop on something on Hulu for 20 minutes and not worry about it. But I know in the back of my mind, there's also something I could be doing that's more productive. And I think that's healthy as well, because I remember I had a stake president growing up who famously only slept for like 3 or 4 hours a night. And his whole point of doing that was, this way I have enough time to do all the other things I want to do. Like he would watch his cars at 1 a.m, which it worked for him. He was just a ball of energy. But I don't necessarily endorse that for everybody else. But I think we can be more intentional with our time and our discipleship as well, right? We can't be haphazard with how we engage with the Lord at the same time. Well, Noelle, I know you got to go. You're a busy lady. There's lots going on, but it's been really wonderful learning from you and from your experiences. Thank you so much for visiting us here this week in Mormons.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Have a great day.
Real pleasure.